this is Tiffany, and you're listening to Everything Fab Four on Salon.com.
Welcome to Everything Fab Four, a podcast focused on fun and intelligent stories about the enduring cultural influence of the Beatles. I'm your host, Ken Womack, music culture columnist for Salon.com and a Beatles scholar and historian. No other band, or popular phenomenon for that matter, has enjoyed the global impact the Beatles have and continue to have more than 50 years later. They are part of our human fabric. They created music that still continues to bring people together, and just about everyone has their own Beatles story to tell, some that are surprisingly deep and unexpected. This show seeks to draw those stories out in interesting and insightful ways. Remember, it's a Beatles world, and everyone has a story.
My manager at the time said, someone from Ringo Starr's office called and said, and I said yes. And they said, but you don't even know what we're going to ask you. I said, it doesn't matter. You said Ringo Starr, like Ringo Starr? I have a bucket list that's pretty incredible, and I'm able to check things off. And I never thought in a million years that I would meet Ringo Starr, let alone play with him.
Today's guest is Grammy winner Sheila E. Known widely as the Queen of Percussion, Sheila E. is a luminary in the music world whose career spans decades filled with significant achievements, including being the first female percussionist honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Growing up in a musical family in the Bay Area, she drew seminal influences from her father, the legendary Pete Escovedo, and her godfather, the icon, Tito Puente, blending Latin jazz with an eclectic mix of Motown and Bay Area sounds. Her early exposure to music set the stage for a stellar career, playing alongside icons like Prince, Marvin Gaye, and Beyoncé, and crafting hits like The Glamorous Life and A Love Bizarre. She was a member of Ringo Starr's all-star band during the 2000s, joining his star-studded lineup for 3 tours in 2001, 2003, and 2006. Beyond her electrifying performances and Grammy-nominated tracks, Sheila E.'s influence extends into acting, philanthropy, and mentorship. Her commitment to using music as a tool for healing and social change is evident in her work with the Elevate Hope Foundation and her influential autobiography, The Beat of My Own Drum. Recently, she celebrated a new creative milestone with the launch of her first-ever salsa album, Bailar, co-produced with Tony Sucre, featuring collaborations with stars like Gloria Estefan, Ruben Blades, Gilberto Santa Rosa, Victor Manuel, Luis Enrique, Jose El Canario, Mimi Sucar, and Debbie Nova, among others. This project not only showcased her versatility and ability to navigate different musical genres, but also marked a pivotal moment in her career with a Grammy win for Best Global Music Performance. Balancing life as a performer, producer, and philanthropic leader, Sheila E. continues to inspire with her dynamic artistry and deep connection to her roots. Welcome, Sheila E. Tell us about your musical background.
Wow. Growing up in a musical family, especially because of my dad, and I always call him the legendary Pete Escovedo, who's one of the best dressed timbali percussion players in the world. My dad would, and still is, exactly. My dad would practice in front of, not in the living room, not the front room, the living room. He had an extensive vinyl collection, and practicing every single day was what he did. So we would hear music constantly in the house, as well as other percussion players would come over. They would have jam sessions. And then once in a while, an entire band in the living room practicing, playing, rehearsing. And it was awesome.
Now, when you were a young person, did you realize that this was something that was awesome, or was it just this is what my life is like?
Yeah, it was no big deal. We got people in the house, they're playing and they're jamming. It was like, ooh, it was exciting. And then we go outside and play and do our own thing. So we didn't know till later on when we were in our teens, my brothers and I and my sister, that we realized, oh my God, that was so I didn't realize they were famous. And, we looked at it, it was a normal thing. So yeah, it was exciting.
Now, was percussion always your instrument, or are you multi-instrumental?
Percussion, congas was my first instrument because my dad practiced with congas every day, mostly congas. Later on, well, I shouldn't say later on, I was 9 or 10. My dad saw that I was interested in getting on his congas after he would finish playing. And he said, I want you to learn a new instrument. So I was excited thinking, okay, what other percussion instrument would that be? And it was actually violin. He wanted me to play violin. So I'm like, violin? Are you kidding? Oh my goodness. I took violin, actually loved it. I didn't read music very well. And I was first violinist. I took it for 5 years. Scholarships and everything, I didn't want to do that because later on then I realized I should play percussion. But I didn't read very well or at all. And it was in the 8th grade, my teacher asked me to, start at a certain part in the music. And I said, well, if you play it, I'll know, and she figured like, wait a minute, are you saying you don't read? Pulled me to the front of where her desk was and said, you're not reading music. How are you first violinist all these years and you're not reading? I said, well, I have a good ear. I mean, if you play something, I just kind of mimic what you're playing. And I was really fast too. And to me, that was also playing percussion because it's very percussive, having to play the timing. And so I loved playing violin, and that opened up my palette for classical music, which was fantastic.
So what kind of music did you guys listen to around the house?
My dad played Latin jazz a lot and salsa music, so there were a lot of different artists. He brought in jazz as well from Miles Coltrane, then Eddie Palmieri, Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, Fania All-Stars, and then we listened to a lot of Motown. So black artists that were on Motown, which was amazing. And we grew up in Oakland, California. So that vibe of all the different genres of music fit and made us who we are, because it was the radio in the Bay Area at the time played a little bit of everything from Grateful Dead, Santana, Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and then you've got Sly and the Family Stone, the Pointer Sisters, Tower Power. All of these bands then were from the Bay Area, so we ended up like going to sneak into their rehearsals and check them out. And then later on, it's like, wait a minute, my dad's playing with Santana now. My uncle's playing with Santana. We're, meeting all these amazing people that we used to listen to going, wow, this is pretty cool.
I was just so thrilled when I was prepping for today and I saw your dad still with us. That's just amazing, right? He's what, 91?
He's 90. He'll be 91 in July. Yeah.
Right,
and he actually has a show this weekend too. So there you go.
How about it? My dad is 93 last month.
Congratulations.
We're really lucky, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We are so blessed to have our parents. It's a blessing. It really is. I count it as joy every single day. It's so amazing.
Wow. And to think of all that, he's given you, and just that childhood alone is mesmerizing.
Yeah, it's literally like a lot of us that were born in the Bay, we just think like, wow, we were exposed to so much music, and there were tons of places to play and go see music and sit in, and then, we would people would call on regular phones, dial-up phones, and say, hey, we're going to meet at the park. We're going to go to Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and play out in the, outside in the front of the school. Or, it was that kind of vibe and community. And that experience for me really helped me to be an artist and a musician, because I constantly was able to go and see other bands perform or see their rehearsals and asking, can I sit in? Can I sit in? They're like, get away, little girl. But can I sit in? I can really play. It was that experience. And after a while, I was like, hey, Sheila, come and sit in. It was the word of mouth, like, she can play.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I have to ask, do you remember where you were on Sunday, February 9th, 1964? Were you maybe watching television?
I was. I think we had a black and white TV. Actually, I remember the TV was a round, almost round, kind of oblong TV on a stand with a square box that was red. And I remember the Beatles landing in the air. I think it was New York at the airport. It was, I think it was, 1964.
Yeah.
8, 9, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. I keep saying that I was 9 or 7, somewhere around there, because I was born in 57. So yeah, I was young, but I remember that moment, watching television. We all saw it, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. They're so cute. And then I just fell in love, and it's like, who are they? This is amazing. Look how, and the first thing was like, their haircuts, how they looked, and their outfits. And I loved fashion growing up. So it was like, look at their clothes and look how cute they are. And they're so handsome. And yeah, it was that kind of thing.
So now, was Dad back there while you're watching the Beatles? Was your father right there too? The whole family?
Yeah, the whole family. Yeah, we were all watching it.
Did he have on, that first performance? Because, a lot of parents, it was a generation gap and they weren't impressed.
No, I have the coolest, hippest parents in the world. Are you kidding? They're like, we're watching this. Everyone, we loved watching Ed Sullivan, those shows, those variety shows. We lived on those shows. So it was, and I think that's what helped us as far as entertaining people and learning how to entertain, because we loved watching variety shows and entertainment. And, watching the Beatles perform on Ed Sullivan was everything. It was everything.
So it got thumbs up from him. No surprise, but I was just curious.
Oh, no. No, we loved it. We all loved it. It was amazing.
Did the music seem that different at the time to your very young ears, or was it part of just a piece?
I don't remember. I just know that I really don't. I mean, being 7, 8, whatever, how old I was, or young, I don't remember like, oh, this is so different musically that I really paid attention to that. I just knew, and it could have been different, that maybe I was just going, wow, and Ringo playing and his hair is moving, and I'm like, that is so cool,
Ludwig's.
Oh, the Ludwig, forget about it. Wow, yeah.
So, well, and of course, the more dramatic differences will be later with Sgt. Pepper and the White Album and Abbey Road and records like that, which would happen in your later formative years. So what are the big breaks in the 1970s that allow us all to get to know you? What are the things that happen in the 70s that start moving toward your career?
Well, my dad, he was signed to Clive Davis, and he had a band, he and his brother had a band called Azteca, and Azteca did 2 albums, but the first album, they were already touring with part of Santana, because some of the Santana band was in my dad's band, and they were touring with Temptations, Earth, Wind & Fire, and I think it was Stevie maybe, but them touring, it was an 18-piece band. And so when I played that one performance with my dad at 18, I think I was 15 years old, 15 or 16. And that just changed, I was 15. That changed my life. And that was the beginning of, wait a minute, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be a musician. And 2 weeks later, I went out on tour with my dad. First time I had ever gotten on a plane, and we flew to Bogota, Colombia, and that was the beginning. I know, and the first show we were playing after a bullfight. We were in the bull ring. Like, it was the craziest thing. Yeah.
At least the bullfight opened for you.
Oh yeah, but but true. It was like, what the heck? I'm 15 years old, and so, but that was the beginning of the turning point of my musical career. Like, I want to do this, even though I loved music so much even before that, growing up in a household of music, but in the 70s, it was beginning, playing with my dad and playing with his band. Then we meet Billy Cobham, an amazing drummer, and he wants to produce an album on my dad and I. He produced the album. Then I meet George Duke, and I go out on tour with George Duke, and that changed everything as well, because then I'm not just playing my dad's music and playing with Billy. My dad and I played with Billy Cobham, which was crazy, because playing with Billy Cobham it was amazing. We met so many incredible musicians, and then this was a different level from in which we were used to. And then going out with George Duke, learning the different, again with Billy as well, the different time signatures, and them reading music, but we didn't, and learning how to listen and become the artist. And George Duke always told me, he's like, I'll never tell you what you need to play on any of the songs. What feels right, and just do it. And so he allowed me to express myself as a percussion player, and a lot of people don't do that,
Level of trust.
For sure, and it's like, it allowed me to find the different places and the different holes and musically where I would not get in the way. So that taught me, wow, this is really cool, and figuring out what it really meant to be a percussion player, to find the place where you're not in the way, and you're complementing the piece itself and the artist, and being a part of a band and listening and having the conversations musically early on. That taught me a lot. And from there...
That sounds a lot like a guy named Richard Starkey, and what he once said, that you got to play the song and not, what you're interested in, but what the song's essence is about. And does it elevate you then as a player when you're performing with this quality of folks?
Oh, for sure. I just... playing that first show with my dad, I had sat in with his different bands, but to sit in at the first time with Azteca, they were signed on a major label with a major company, touring with all of these A-list artists. So, me coming in the youngest and playing with these professionals, even though it was my dad, like, I had to do like this, like sit up and go, okay, wait a minute. I've got to bring this to their level. And it uplifts you to put you in a place you've never really put yourself in, because you've never had to go to that level. There's different bands that I learned from and watching, but to be in that space, and then that allowed me to grow and continue to go. And I just, the coolest thing is really continuing through all my career is watching and learning all the different things that every single person that I performed with in bands, not being a solo artist, but being in the band and behind the scenes, taught me more than anything. It taught me how to be a student and to continue to learn as a student, because if you sit there and watch and listen, you observe and you go, wow, I would do this differently, or, I'm going to take that with me and I'm going to use that one day. And that, again, that real-time experience, it's hard because the young people now, they don't all get that opportunity to have the experience to go, because the community and the vibe has changed. It's all about being on social media and playing to your phone, and like, man, that would drive me crazy. Like, I need to be out with people and be in the room and make something happen. That's like the most amazing feeling.
And it was the live performance, right, that made you say, this is what I want to be my career.
For sure, 100%.
Not sitting in some cloistered room somewhere.
No, and times are different. I always tell everyone, man, I feel like I was born at the perfect time to be able to experience all the things that I've experienced musically. I wouldn't have had it any other way. I was so blessed to be born at this time. Yeah.
So tell me about meeting Prince. That must have been 1977, right?
Yeah, it was about then. He was doing his first record and performed, and he was hanging out in the Bay Area a lot. And he was at the studio actually where my dad was. They were recording with Carlos in the studio. And so Prince had come from Minneapolis to be able to record his first record in a studio where he was influenced and loved Carlos Santana and Sly Stone. So he wanted to be in that environment for his first record. And so he was there in San Francisco recording his first record at that time.
So could you tell that this guy was different? I mean...
the thing is my dad had seen him before I did. And my dad was like, he came home saying, there's this young kid who is producing his own record, and he said he's playing all the instruments himself. There's no band in there. He's like, and my dad with Carlos, they're all playing live in the studio, and Prince is by himself playing every instrument. He goes, this is crazy. And he said his name was Prince. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Not until I met him, he was very shy, very quiet, and he had already, when I introduced myself, he had already he said to me, I've been following your career. I know who you are. And I'm like, what? Because it wasn't social media back then. It wasn't, what we have now.
Yeah, back then
but he had seen,
you had to do the work.
Yeah, do the work and watch television. And our only experience worldwide would be television if you were not out on tour. So he had seen me a couple of times on some of the late night shows like Don Kirshner's rock concert and Midnight Special. And so he's like, I saw you play drums, and so we exchanged numbers, and that was it. He was very shy, very quiet, still learning, wanting to find out about the Bay Area. So I just showed him everything about the Bay, our favorite donut shop, favorite sandwiches, where we go hang out to play and sit in, and the clubs, the scene. And then when I finally introduced him to the family, I said, you got to come see me play with my family, because that's something that you'll probably freak out. And he was just like, where did you guys come from? Like, this doesn't make sense. He loved it, because Latin jazz he had never really heard about. It was music that was foreign to him.
So then when do you start collaborating together? Was it almost immediately, or? Well,
we started jamming right away. Yeah, we were jamming at my house. I had instruments at my house, and we jammed a lot. And then, he started going out on tour. So we probably didn't write or do anything till maybe 1983, I think. But by this time, I'm out on tour after I left George, I went out with Marvin Gaye. Well, I was touring with other bands too, but Marvin Gaye and Lionel Richie, and things just kept progressing, and recording on so many projects. So it was a busy time for both of us.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And of course, anyone and I'm one of them, who's had the privilege of seeing you, knows that the secret sauce is that energy that you create. I mean, it is absolutely remarkable. It's, if you could bottle it, you would. But no, it's just staggering, because, of course, that's why we keep coming back for live performance.
Right, yeah. And that a lot of that has to do, my mom is so energetic. She wears, it's exhausting hanging out with her. And she's 88, and I'm like, oh my God, let's sit down for a minute. That energy comes from my mom. My mom's side of the family, the Gardiers, the Creoles, they're like, let's go, go, go. They never stop. My dad is very let's chill. And my mom is like, let's go. My mom, I owe it to her, she's the one who, even though my dad was in music, my mom is the entertainer. Her and her sisters took vaudeville, piano, tap dancing, all this, wanted to entertain. And we were part of her, come on, you guys, let's go entertain the family. And we would do, pretending like we were different bands. And my mom is the reason why I'm like I am, 100%.
They were a double force than your parents.
I had no choice.
So that Purple Rain tour must have been something else.
Oh, it was amazing. It really was. I mean, again, all of the artists that I performed with at that time was something I had never done, and it just kept growing and getting and different and production. And me, I love production. I love being behind the scenes and watching how people put things together. Like, that's just as exciting to me, putting a show together. Like, it's all that you have to do to get ready to perform. And that's why we always talk about, well, I don't, but all the people that have been in my band talk about how I have my work ethic. It was insane. It's like, and again, from my dad, like, you got to rehearse, you got to be on time, know all your stuff before you go out on stage, because then when you get on stage, you're just going to play and have fun. That's like, we don't have to think about it. Now we're playing with each other. We don't have to read music. And I'm not knocking that, but it's like when you're doing a tour, you can't sit and read music. You got to go and you got to entertain. And I got to see your eyes and you have to see mine. And I got to point to you even though I can't see you. You feel like I'm pointing at you. And you got to welcome people in like it's your home. And so all of those things, again, from my mom. And so you do all the homework, and every tour that I've done with every artist, I've learned so much. It's just been amazing.
So then when you made the Glamorous Life, that, one of my favorite LPs, when you put that together, right, you must have been loved doing the behind the scenes work too, the production. Can you? Oh,
all of it. Yeah.
Not making that record a little bit, the album, of course.
Doing the album happened very quickly because we were already doing music, and I was recording in the studio in multiple rooms where Prince had multiple rooms going on, and I just go from one room to another. And then we would just, record until we couldn't record anymore. We just stay up and get it done. It was done very quickly, and I kind of knew what I wanted as far as even some of the look. Like he and his team helped me with some of the look and what I wanted to do, and pretend like I had sticks on the side so I could pull a stick out, because I didn't have a stick holder. I didn't want to put a regular guy stick holder. I had to be sexy, but put a stick on the side of my outfit and change the band and what they looked like, and rehearsed like crazy. And so all of that, putting the record together, was amazing, and that was absolutely fun. But it was more fun rehearsing, getting the show together, like, oh, let me try this, let me do this, because in the song, I got to make sure that people understand that I'm doing this or what it looks like. It was the production part.
What a great tribute to you. You love all of your job, right?
I love all of it. I love all of it.
Not everybody gets to say that.
I know. I love every part of it. The music business and production and putting things together. Like, it's a lot, but I really enjoy that part. I really do.
In terms of genre, it's just so fascinating that you have roots in jazz, Latin jazz, R&B, and now, of course, in the 80s, you're in this huge popular movement. I mean, that was the zeitgeist, right? I mean, Prince and the work you were doing, that must have been extraordinary.
It was an amazing time. When I go back and look at when we played, I think it was American Music Awards, and Lionel was hosting. That was one of the years he was hosting. But to be able to see all the artists that were there when I was there, was pretty crazy. Like, you got Quincy Jones, you have Lionel, Tina Turner, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson. The list just went on, and you're thinking, I'm in that list with these people to be nominated or to perform on the American Music Awards. And you look at the front row and you see Liza Minnelli, or you see Elizabeth Taylor, and you're just going, I can't look down there. you just got to go, oh my God, because it's bigger than life, and they're sitting there watching you, and it's like, it almost didn't even compute or make sense. But that time in music for me was just amazing. It was kind of like all a blur, because you just kept going until you couldn't go anymore, and but I had a lot of fun. I don't regret any of that.
Well, in your work with Prince, and of course those years, they're just giants, right? And nothing's been good in the world since Prince has not been with us. So that was a mark in the sand. Just miss his talent so much. But your work on all those records is amazing. And I have to ask you, so, obviously you're blazing your own trails during that period, but getting to play with Mr. Starkey must have been something special, I would imagine, in that long-running project of his. Is project the right word? The All-Star Band.
I think it was brave of him and really cool to put together an all-star band and pull in different artists that he would not normally perform with, or, maybe even meet. And I don't know who brought up my name, how I even got called. All I know is my manager at the time said, someone from Ringo Starr's office called and said, and I said, yes. And they said, but you don't even know what we're going to ask you. I said, it doesn't matter. You said Ringo Starr, like Ringo Starr? I have a bucket list that's pretty incredible, and I'm able to check things off. And, I never thought in a million years that I would meet Ringo Starr, let alone play with him. And to be able to do that, I was on the tour with him, 3 different tours. I think 2001, 3 and 6, I think, something like that. Yeah. For me to even meet the people that I liked, listen to their music and play with them and play their music. But playing next to Ringo, that was like, I couldn't even believe it. And I tell people all the time, like, you've got to practice. You got to make sure you know your stuff. When they gave me the music, I made sure I practiced and made sure I learned what I needed to learn.
Well, those were just incredible shows. And there's something magical about, watching, obviously Ringo play his own songs, and his songs with the Beatles are impressive enough. But there's something extra magical when he's playing on somebody else's song and he's given the same level of gusto, and you're looking over, like now, right? He's playing with some of the guys from Toto, and he's playing Africa, and you're thinking, right, that's Ringo playing Africa.
Right.
Something
right.
cool about that, isn't there?
100%. Like, when I first met him, he was shooting a commercial in Los Angeles, and they said, well, he wants to meet you, and since he's in town, go over and say hello to him, and he wants to talk to me. I was like, okay. I was so nervous, and I walk over there, he's finished, and then he's folding his hands, and he comes up to me with his dry humor, but you got to know that is dry humor, and he's being funny. But it was, he says, nice to meet you. And when he shakes your hand, he doesn't shake your hand, he shakes elbows. So that germs, it's make sure he doesn't get germs from people's hands. He grabs your shoulder, which is your elbow's pretty awesome. But anyway, we're talking, and he said, so I just want to let you know, I'm glad that you're going to do this, but you will be the drummer in the band. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Because I didn't understand, wait, you're Ringo Starr. How am I going to be the drummer if you're not playing? What are you doing? Or is he going to play something else? I don't know. He said, no, we're going to play a lot of songs together, playing drum together. And I was like, well, really? He said, yeah. And then when we play your songs, I'll play drums on your songs. I was like, what? You're kidding. Ringo Starr playing Glamorous Life? What? I would have never thought in a million years. It was so amazing. I was so happy. I just never thought that would happen. And so when we did it in rehearsal, it had a whole nother vibe to it. And it had a swing. And I'm like, wow, that's really, because I've never played it like that before. It was different. It sounded different and good. And with everyone adding their own thing, which is not my band, and the way that they would play it, it was totally different. And we had so much fun. But the key to, one thing was the key to playing with Ringo. Once he told me, that we were going to both play, and I was going to play his music, and he would stand up in the front and sing a lot of the songs. And I'm thinking, okay, I have to learn how he plays. Like, I know how he plays when, you're listening to the music, you go, oh yeah, he's playing and he's doing his fills and blah, blah. But when you actually sit down and listen to how he's performing and playing, a lot of times to me, his tom fills were almost like another lyric. It was in between sometimes where a vocal would be, like, it was so tasteful and how he did things. And I'm like, okay, all right, let me just figure this out. As I was learning the 25, 26 songs that they gave me, I had to figure out, to me, I looked at it like, how is he walking? How does his swing? It was, how does he walk? And I had to figure out, how did he walk? And so when I started to play, I'm trying to visualize. Every time I got ready to do a tom fill, he had already passed me. And I'm like, but I'm not late, I'm on time. It doesn't make sense. It took me a minute to figure that out. Like, why am I behind every fill that he plays? I'm late, even though I'm on time. And this is where I would play the fill, but this is where I would play the fill. He would play the fill in a different place. I'm like, I don't get this. And I kept listening, and then finally I went, I got it. That's what it is. So I'm playing, and when he does his fill, I start my fill with my right hand. He starts with his left, and then so that's why I was always late, because he comes in with his left. Aha!
Is it because he's a left-handed, right-handed drummer, however he puts it? Is that there's almost a pitch in there, isn't there?
Yeah, that's exactly what. And I'm like, that's so crazy. Once I figured that out, he starts with his left for his fill. And that's why I was always late, because he went, duh, duh, and here's my fill. So I was like, oh, I got to do this. So that was changing the way that I played and the way that I would do fills. And I'm like, oh my God, I got his walk. I get it, and how he's swinging. Now I figured it out. And it's not that you're going to play exactly like Ringo. I wasn't trying to do that. I just needed to understand where my lane was that would complement him, with us playing together without getting in the way, but playing as one drummer. You don't want to play completely different where we're clashing, because our hi-hat patterns are different. It's like, I learned every single thing that I felt was necessary to make sure we played together and we sounded together. And it was really like pretty cool. It was like being a student in school, and you're trying to figure out, wow, this test is really hard. And it was worth it, because when we got to rehearsal, I was ready. And he said, are you ready? I said, oh yeah, I'm ready. I was so confident. I'm like, I got this. Like, forget about it. I was so excited. I'm playing all this. And it's funny, because I always wanted to be in a rock and roll band. I've always said that, like that kind of thing. And finally, it's like, I get to be in a rock and roll band.
Everything Fab Four is presented by Salon.com, the premier news, politics, innovation, and arts website. For more information, visit everythingfab4.com, where you can learn more about our podcast and my latest Beatles-related books, including John Lennon 1980, The Last Days in the Life, and Living the Beatles Legend, the previously untold story of beloved Beatles roadie Mal Evans. The Everything Fab Four theme song, Seize the Day, is provided courtesy of Black Rabbit, the high-octane Beatles cover band, an innovative psychedelic rock project from Rockaway Beach, Queens, in New York City. Like what you heard today on Everything Fab Four? Be sure to subscribe, give us a rating, and recommend the show to your friends. Plus, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EF4 Podcast. Distributed by Salon.com, Everything Fab Four is a Wonderwall production. Remember, it's a Beatles world, and everyone has a story.